Look at the West Coast at dawn on the day this starts, and you wouldn't recognize it. From San Diego up through Los Angeles, the Bay Area, all the way past Portland into Seattle, the beaches are gone. Not physically, just covered. Rows of soldiers stretching back from the waterline as far as you can see. Dug in, formed up, weapons loaded. Tanks sitting at the tree line with engines still ticking as they cool.
Artillery batteries already unlimbered and ranged in on the nearest towns. Ammunition crates stacked shoulder high behind the lines. Every rifle in every hand is loaded. Every man has eaten. Nobody's waiting on a supply ship that hasn't arrived yet because it already has. This is North Korea's entire military. 1.2 million men, the fourth largest standing army on Earth, already on American soil, fully supplied, fully munitioned, and ready to move the second the order comes down. No warning shots, no slow buildup you get to watch coming. They're just here.
So let's skip the part where we explain why this is hard to pull off, because in this video, it already happened. What we're actually here to figure out is what happens next, because they made it ashore and they win turn out to be two very different questions.
Standard rules for this series. No U.S. government, no military, no cavalry riding in. Just the roughly 107 million Americans who legally own a firearm, organized into whatever local militia groups form up in the first hours and days, armed with whatever they've already got. AR-15s, hunting rifles, shotguns, night vision, body armor, the trucks in their driveways. On the other side, North Korea's full standing force, dropped onto the West Coast at full strength. No logistics penalty, no crossing to survive. They're already here. Full stop.
The push inland starts almost immediately. North Korean infantry doctrine has spent 70 years built around exactly one job: take ground fast, hold it, and grind down anyone in the way with overwhelming numbers and artillery support. For the first day, that doctrine looks unstoppable. Coastal towns from Oxnard to Half Moon Bay to Coos Bay fall within hours. Not because the defenders don't fight, but because nobody had time to organize before a fully armed division was already moving through Main Street.
Here's the number that actually matters in those first 48 hours. It's not troops, it's artillery. North Korea fields the largest concentration of artillery pieces of any military in the world. And in this scenario, every gun that would normally be pointed at Seoul is instead sitting somewhere between San Francisco and Sacramento, already ranged, already crewed.
That's the single most dangerous thing in this entire video. Massed artillery doesn't care how many rifles are shooting back at the infantry in front of it. For the opening stretch of this war, American gun owners are facing the one piece of North Korea's arsenal that's genuinely built to flatten resistance before it forms.
It's not going to be a fair fight for a while, and it's worth just sitting with that instead of rushing past it. But two things start working against North Korea almost immediately, and neither one is about firepower. The first is geography, and it's the same problem every invading force in this series eventually runs into, just showing up faster this time because there's no beachhead to consolidate first.
California alone is 163,000 square miles. Push inland from the coast, and you hit the Coast Ranges, then the Central Valley, then the Sierra Nevada. Terrain that funnels an advancing force into predictable routes while giving defenders every hillside, every ridgeline, every tree line is covered. North Korean doctrine is built for the compressed, well-mapped geography of the Korean Peninsula, where every position has been surveyed and refought for 70 years. None of that knowledge transfers to Highway 101 or the back roads of Mendocino County.
The second is the sheer number of people already holding rifles who live there. California alone has something like 8 million legal gun owners, and that's before you count neighboring Oregon, Washington, Nevada, and Arizona, all within driving distance and all watching this unfold on the news within hours. This isn't a standing army that has to be built from nothing. It's already distributed, already armed, already familiar with the exact ground it's defending. Every rancher who knows a canyon shortcut, every hunter who's tracked deer through those same hills for 20 years becomes a problem an occupying force has to solve one property at a time. The fighting in Los Angeles and the Bay Area looks completely different from the fighting in rural Northern California, and it's worth separating them because North Korea's advantages and disadvantages flip depending on which one you're looking at. In dense urban terrain, North Korean infantry numbers matter more. You can flood a city block with troops in a way you can't flood a mountain pass, but urban combat also swallows a modern conventional army whole. Every building is a potential ambush point.
Every street is a choke point. Civilian gun owners who know their own neighborhoods block by block have a defender's advantage that raw troop numbers don't erase. And North Korean units used to fighting in the compressed geography of Korean cities still have to relearn an entirely unfamiliar street grid under fire. This is where the war slows from a rout into a grind, city by city, block by block.
Everything up to this point has been about the fight itself. Now here's the part that actually decides how long any of this lasts. That artillery sitting at the tree line, ranged in and devastating for the first week, it has a finite number of shells, and every one of them was carried across the Pacific once. There's no second shipment coming. North Korea's Navy was never built for sustained transoceanic resupply. It's a coastal force designed for short infiltration runs across a narrow strait, not a standing bridge of cargo ships running 6,000 miles back and forth indefinitely. Whatever ammunition, fuel, and food came across with that initial force is, for all practical purposes, everything they're ever going to get.
Compare that to the other side. American gun owners aren't burning through a fixed stockpile shipped from overseas. They're pulling from gun stores, hunting supply shops, and their own garages in a country that manufactures more small arms ammunition than anywhere else on Earth. The resupply math runs in exactly one direction here, and it's not the direction that favors the army that just used up its entire war chest in the opening month.
It's also worth remembering what's happening back in North Korea while all of this plays out. The country has dealt with chronic fuel shortages and food insecurity for decades. That's not exaggeration for the video. It's documented by outside aid organizations for years running. Committing the entire standing military to an operation on the other side of the Pacific doesn't just strain the invasion force. It strips the home country of the army it normally relies on to keep order and defend its own borders, while that home country is simultaneously trying to somehow keep an overseas war supplied that its economy was never built to sustain in the first place.
So even in the version of this scenario where North Korea starts as strong as it's possible to start, no crossing to survive, no early warning given away, full strength on the ground from hour one, the war doesn't actually get easier for them as time goes on. It gets harder every single week because the shells run out, the fuel runs out, and the food runs out, while the other side is standing in its own country, next to its own gun stores, with a supply line that's never longer than a drive to the nearest Walmart.
The opening of this one is genuinely the scariest version of this matchup this channel has done.
A fully supplied, fully munitioned North Korean army landing at full strength with no logistics failure to blunt the first strike is a real nightmare scenario for the first several weeks. Cities fall fast. Artillery does exactly what artillery is built to do, and American resistance spends that opening stretch just trying to survive contact.
But full strength on day one isn't the same thing as a sustainable war. And this is a country that was never built to run a 6,000-mile logistics chain, even under ideal conditions. The initial shock fades. The shells don't get replaced. The fuel doesn't get replaced. And a war that started as the most terrifying opening this series has ever had turns over months into an occupying force slowly being ground down by a population that never had to cross an ocean to fight for its own ground.
Chance of gun owners in the USA winning? 79%. See you in the next video.